Good morning, folks. How are we? Monday morning, 10:30, and sure as hell, Davy shows up like a bad penny. Hope we all had a good weekend. Hope we're all feeling fine. Anyway, it's in the truck, Davy at the truck, not home in his office in Salisbury, North Lanarkshire, on the 27th of the 10th, 2025, where it is 8 degrees, sunny at the moment. There is rain in the forecast for this evening. Humidity is at 81%. Wind speeds 12 to 24 kph, roughly about 8 to 18, 19 mile an hour. And the pollen count, 0. So don't worry about it. No antihistamines needed today, apparently. Anyway, let's have a look, see who's in. Hi, Stephen. Hi, Ange. Hi, Mel. Hi, Jamie Dodgers. Hi, Scott. Apparently, Aki's and Alistair's in. Hi, Desiree. And I see Wake Up and Smell the Rosemary's better known to us as our Rosie. She's got a communist on her arse this morning. Hi, Comrade S. Huh? Hi, Lorna. Lorna Shields, that is. LA Chaos. Kidding on, she's Jimmy Savile this morning with her guys and gals. And we've got Linda D. Stevie Nicol, Robert the Bruce. Reagan Elite. Good morning, folks. Reagan will be going live right after me, I imagine. Sandy McLean. Anna Chisholm. Last Braveheart. I'm sure I see John O'Rourke in there somewhere this morning. Basically, you're all just saying hello to each other. I did see John there. And Christina Mackey. I think I've seen Barbara there as well. Good morning, Barbara. The other Davies in the house. Hi, Margaret. Martin. Right, let's get on with this morning, shall we? First up this morning, we've got the Tory graph. We'll go dig it out, see what nonsense it's got for us this morning. Well, at this point in time, it's got no nonsense for us. Here we go. The Tory graph. And the Tory graph tells us billions wasted in migrant hotel chaos. And apparently, the incompetence in the Home Office, the department that is, and we're allowing firms who run migrant detention centres, better known in the past as hotels, they've been allowing the people that own these organisations to rip the piss and reap huge profits, because when it comes to hiring accommodation, the Home Office appears not to be very good at it. So there have been billions overspent on the accommodation that's been provided as detention centres for these migrants. Incompetence in UK government. Anybody surprised there at that headline? What's interesting is the headlines are the same, both sides of the border, where the publications are done by the big ones. Next up, we've got the Scottish Times. What's it got for us this morning? And you will see it does say the Times of Scotland. So it's on the same story. Billions lost to flawed hotel deals for migrants. Ministers failed to recoup share of excessive profits. Well, the way to recoup shares of excessive profits is to tax the fuckers. And let's face it, they don't tax the rich. That's just not on. That's only for us plebs to pay. Right, now we're on to the Daily Fail, and it's on the same story again. Now, it tells us new asylum fiasco, billions wasted on hotel for migrants. Report it finds incompetence at Home Office staff that let private firms make excessive profits from small boat crisis. Interesting thing about that small boat crisis, we should start calling it the Farage boat crisis, the same way we called it the Farage riots. It's about time people realise why this crisis is here. People like Farage, who pushed for Brexit, didn't bother to explain to the people who they were pushing Brexit for on racist grounds that it would see an end to the Dublin Agreement and see a flotilla of small boats arrive on the shores of the east coast of England almost daily when weather permits. But more incompetence in government. The last government, in this case, it was. Right, what's the Guardian got for us? The Guardian tells us that the NHS needs more money. NHS needs extra $3 billion to avoid rationing care, Reeves is warned. Rationing care? So, rationing care, how does that work? Oh, you're worthy, you're no. You're worthy, you're no. You're worthy, you're no. Oh, for fuck's sake. Just print the money, Rachel, and you better make it $4 billion because there will be Barnett consequentials. So get the printing press out, Rachel. Start printing money. Well, and if you want to recoup it, tax the fucking rich. I'm going on Rosemary on myself here, getting all communist on your arses. The very notion of taxing the rich. Oof. Right. After the fail, the Guardian, we've got the Scotsman. Now this one is interesting, folks. Public sector workers miss out on pensions. Now what's this all about? Well, the Scottish Government is once again getting it in the neck, and the Scottish Government agency, meaning the Scottish Public Pensions Agency, are getting it in the neck because in 2015, the UK government changed the rules for public sector pensions. Of course, those rule changes applied right across these islands. In 2018, after a long court battle, the MacLeod judgment was issued because the court battle was about discrimination, age discrimination in this case. The changes to the pension rules locked out some younger employees. They took, of course, the unions went to court on it, won the case. So that meant that the younger employees then had to be compensated. And the court set a deadline. The deadline was the 31st of March 2025 to have 200,000 people in Scotland compensated. Well, I've had a look and nobody's managed it UK-wide because we're talking about an awful lot of people. So now the courts are charging interest on the money that should have been paid out. And it's costing the Scottish Government and the Scottish Public Pensions Agency a fucking fortune. Some people have died without getting their money. But once again, UK Westminster incompetence has costed devolved administrations and Westminster a lot of fucking money. Incompetence in government seems to be the thread of this morning so far. Let's move on. Next one up should be the Herald, I think. No, the Rancid, we don't put the Rancid up. What's the Rancid quote for us? The Rancid tells us NHS in crisis, 1 million nursing days lost to mental health crisis. Now, this is out a number of years, folks. I think it's 5. We're talking about since the pandemic. The extra workload on staff trying to deal with the backlog for the pandemic has led to worsening mental health within the nursing profession and has led to 1 million days of lost work time. That's interesting. Next up should be the Herald. Now this one is interesting. Oh, sorry, that's the one we've just had. We seem to have lost one somewhere. Yep, I seem to have lost one. Hold on, I'll go and grab it. It should be the Scotsman. Because it's got an interesting headline this morning, folks. A really interesting one. Oh, you're not going to find it there, David. That's English papers. Now we're on the Scottish papers. Right, the Scotsman, let's get it up. Sorry about this, folks. Seem to have lost it somewhere along the way. This one is interesting because it tells us something about the population. It says half of Scots believe private sector should help NHS. And I guess that'll be the unionist half of the Scots. Because the rest is no, there is no capacity in the health service whatsoever. Because the same doctors and nurses work in the NHS as work in the private sector. They just happen to work for both at the same time. And as they found out in England, a year and a half into Labour's foray into government, where they said they would get the private sector to get rid of the backlog, they find that their waiting times are back up where they were when the private sector was introduced. And that is because there is no capacity. It's the same staff working in both sectors, and it would appear they're working themselves to a bloody bone. But that tells us half of Scots believe private sector's the answer. It tells us half of Scots are fucking stupid. So it must be the unionist half. Because the rest is understand that there is no more medical capacity within the system, whether you be in the private or the public sector. So, and Alistair, it's not quite private healthcare are moonlighting NHS. They are, sorry, you're right, they're moonlighting NHS stuff. I was reading that right. So there is no extra capacity. So this headline's are nonsense. And if half the people of Scotland think there is capacity in the private sector, they need their fucking head looked at. Either that, they need to get themselves informed. What a stupid headline. And apparently 1 in 7 believe that the NHS is worse now than what it was a decade ago. I don't know if that's true. I don't. The quality of service I get has never changed. There is a backlog in dental, but everything else seems to be functioning properly. Right. So that's a Scotsman. Take that down. Next up, we've got the eye. What does the eye tell us? Number 10 in talks to water down day one workers' rights amid new growth warning. Growth warning? What fucking growth? The internal market's saturated. There is no growth within that. There are no external markets to grow into. What's this basically telling you is Labour are about to break another promise. Those spiffing new workers' rights, they're supposed to be coming our way. Well, they won't be so bloody spiffing. By the time this thing hits, it'll be little in the bowl, because the bowl won't be a bowl, it'll be a bloody sieve. Number 10 in talks to what are doing day one workers' rights. Just add that to the list of things that they've had to say, no, we can't do this. And this is on fear of slow growth. Let's try zero fucking growth. None. This economy's flatlined and has been doing for at least 5-6 years. And every time we got a quarterly growth figure, by the time they do the readjustment, we're back at no growth again. Unbelievable. Stupid is as stupid does. Brexit, anyone? Next up, we've got the loony knuckle dragging rag, the Express. What's it go for us this morning? Favoured paper of the Unionists in Scotland. And to be fair, it's right. The Express has bosses of Britain's biggest supermarkets issue stark warning to Rachel Reeves. Tax rises will result in higher food prices. Of course they will. Put a bigger tax burden on the businesses, they're going to pass it on to the customers. That's no fucking rocket science. So, our already exorbitant food prices will be going up again shortly, folks. Which reminds me, it's the 27th. Time to start distributing money to food banks again. This time we're in Ayrshire. And I'll be selecting a food bank for the south, the middle, and the north. And we'll get it out as quick as possible, tell you who it went to, when it's out. Okay. So that's the loony rag, the Express, but actually this time it's quite correct. But you know what to say about a broken clock being right twice a day. Well, this is the second time this year the Express has been right. Take that down. After the Express, we'll get the Metro. What nonsense has it got for us this morning? Well, actually, it's got a stark warning from Wes Streeting. Voters are in despair. And this is a warning to Starmer to get his finger out and start making popular decisions. Because at this point in time, Labour have fallen off the map. 11% are polling it in Wales, 17% in Scotland, and about 20% in England. Electorally, they face absolute Armageddon. And if the poll out at the weekend's right, then the SNP are online for 64 to 66 of the seats in Holyrood. Plaid Cymru will take the Welsh Senate, with Reform being the biggest opposition there. The other thing that poll tells is that the Greens are likely to pick up 17 list seats. I find that hard to believe. But if the SNP takes 66 and the Greens take 17, then that's about 2/3 of that chamber will be pro-independence along there in Holyrood. If that's not a mandate, I don't know what is. Right, anyway, Wes is telling Starmer to start making popular choices and start making a living. A difference to people's living standards, or else Labour are finished. They'll be joining the Tories in the scrap heap. As Zara Sultana said at the weekend there, the big two of the past are finished. Right. Next up, we'll get a National. What's the National go for us? Why Scottish Greens are trailing behind soaring star of Polanski? Yeah, I don't know. I don't, but I believe the Scottish Greens have the bounce offer. Jamie Greer and Gillian Mackay taking her. Maybe not quite as noisy as Zach, but seen similar things. Main headline, poll branded disaster for Labour. SNP Brown says elections a choice between two futures as Reform overtake Labour here in Scotland in both the constituency and regional seats. So Labour have now dropped into third place behind Reform in Scotland. I can see them dropping further. Sarwar's about as popular as some bad wind in an elevator. So he is. Right, after the National, well, the interesting wee bits down here and all. Former MEP quits Alba to, dying Alba, it says, to join your party. And BBC under pressure as no place for pride on politics show. The BBC is the trumpet for the state. The state is the Tories and Labour. Two cheeks, the same arse. Don't forget that. Don't forget that. Right, after the National, we've got the scum. And once again, we'll not be putting the scum up, so we'll tell you what it says. The scum has Royal World exclusive. Prince demands both Will and Harry's ex-homes to give up lodge. He tells King he needs one house for himself and one for his ex-wife Fergie. So there you go. In order to leave the lodge he's living in Windsor, he wants two other houses, one for him and one for Fergie. And he'll probably get them. He will probably get them. So he will. You're going to do that, because that tells us there's only one headline left. And we'll get to that in a minute. Now, Dave and I were by yourself on to talk about various issues that have come up over the weekend. But, you see, apparently there's turmoil in the Westminster Cabinet Office. They're all fighting like cats in a sack. Wonderful stuff. Yeah, and up here, of course, Labour are just trailing along behind. They're the job of letting off the bad smell. They really are. But what's worrying about all this is the vacuum left behind is being filled by knuckle-dragging right-wing fucking lunatics. And they're all headed up by the Pied Piper of lunatics, Nigel Farage. Don't like the way this one's playing out, folks. But hey-oh. Hey-oh. Wow, 161 of you watching right now. Could you hit the like button, folks? Helps the algorithm. Anyway, let's get the star up and see what nonsense it's got for us. Hopefully a boffin. Nah, unfortunately, no boffins. Of course, boffins are in short supply in the UK, especially south of the border, where they've been paying university tuition fees for over 2 decades now, so they've dumbed the population down. So boffins are hard to fucking find. Anyway, the Star has time to dig out the big brawlies. Trick, pour, treat. Apparently, we've got a big storm coming over the next couple of days. Temperatures will drop, wind and rain, and it's going to be unpleasant, apparently. Just another day at the office here in Scotland, folks. There's no bad weather, just bad clothing. Yeah? As we say here in Scotland. No bad weather, just bad clothing. So a wet and windy Halloween. That's about right. As it should be. And apparently it's going to be cold too, which is exactly how it should be, but it hasn't been for a while now. So there we have it, folks. Wet and windy Halloween. Government in chaos. Public sector private sector ripping off the public purse via migrant detention centres. You couldn't make it up. And of course, apparently the NHS in England needs 3 billion, which means all the NHSs need money. Because if the NHS doing that road's been underfunded at the moment with 3 billion, then that means all the NHSs are being underfunded proportionately. Right, that's the first one out the road. I need to take a wee run to one of the hospitals that are in chaos to pick the dragon up for you. She went there for her work this morning and has been seen promptly. So I need to promptly get my shoes on and my jacket on and go and get her. So you lot look after each other. See you at 4 o'clock. Don't be late. The naughty step's waiting if you are. Bye for now.